How well are you sleeping at night? Do you fall asleep easily? Do you stay asleep? Do you wake up the next morning refreshed and ready to go? If you have a hard time falling asleep or staying asleep, have you experimented with any supplements to help you? Hi, this is Sarah Russell. I'm your Trends with Benefits microdose host, here with some small bite-sized snacks of tools for transformation. And in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about why you and magnesium should be sleep buddies, but you and melatonin should just be friends. I'm pretty obsessive about my sleep routine, my sleep hygiene. I need at least 8 hours of sleep every night, and that needs to be high quality. And when I'm talking about high quality, it's the whole gamut. I want to keep my room cool. I have blackout curtains. If I'm on any kind of devices the night before, I'm doing it through the filter of my blue light blocking glasses. And it's really important to get a good night's sleep because, as Maslow says, in Maslow's hierarchy, like that pyramid of human needs, sleep is at the foundation. It's right down there with food, water, and breathing. Sleep is super important. And then after sleep comes safety and love and belonging. And at the top of the pyramid is enlightenment. But enlightenment ain't happening without a good night's sleep. And we know that about a third of adults struggle with getting good quality sleep. And that's on the regular. That's consistently having a hard time sleeping. But 2/3 of us will have a hard time sleeping at least once a week. And so enter melatonin, the hormone of darkness. So said because it's regulated by how much light we're exposed to. And this is a hormone that's produced by your brain's pineal gland. And it's in response to darkness, and it's part of your body's sleep cycle. So the amount of melatonin you produce depends on a number of things, but basically what happens is when the sun sets, the amount of melatonin you produce increases, and that helps you get sleepy. And when the sun rises, the amount of melatonin you produce decreases, and that helps you wake up. So melatonin basically tells you when it's time to be asleep and when it's time to be awake. Now, that means that taking melatonin supplements has gotten really popular. And melatonin is okay. It's okay if you need help with the onset of sleep, with the timing of your sleep. And so people who are chronically exposing themselves to light late at night, so you're watching Netflix late at night, or you're on your phone late at night, if you have to work the night shift, or if you're traveling, that can really disrupt your sleep cycle, and it can make you feel like you need to be awake when actually you should be asleep. So melatonin can help with that, right? So melatonin is okay for a temporary correction to a temporary disruption in your sleep cycle. But it doesn't actually help with the generation or the duration of sleep. So the way Matthew Walker talks about this, the author of Why We Sleep, he talks about melatonin is like calling racers or runners in a race to the starting line, right? It starts the race, but it doesn't actually run the race. So it's not participating in the race that itself. And Matthew Walker and Andrew Huberman do this podcast together on sleep, and it's called The Science and Practice of Perfecting Your Sleep. And in that podcast, Matthew Walker talks about the gains of melatonin. And so on average, if you're taking a melatonin supplement, you're getting about 3.9 minutes of extra sleep. And as far as overall efficiency, 2.2%. So not a lot of gains from taking melatonin. And Walker talks about the study where they looked at different brands of melatonin, where they compared how much melatonin the bottle said was in the supplement versus how much is in the supplement itself. And it was wildly across the board inaccurate. So some of the supplements had 83% less melatonin than the bottle said they had. And some of those melatonin supplements, 478% more melatonin than what the bottle said. So way more than the body would normally produce on its own. And so here's the thing. There isn't great regulation around this. And on top of it, because melatonin is a hormone, anytime you're ingesting, taking a hormone of some kind, there's this potential that your body is going to down-regulate the production of that hormone. So the more you take, the less your body produces, the more you need to take, and it becomes this cycle. And Huberman in this podcast talks about his concerns because melatonin is a known androgen suppressive. And so he talks about some animal studies he participated in where he saw the impacts on reproductive health. Full disclosure, he talks about these hamsters where they basically had testes the size of almonds that shrank to the size of a grain of rice when they were given high levels of melatonin. No, thank you. Yikes. Also, taking melatonin can interfere with certain medications like contraceptives. That's right. It can mess with your birth control. Scary. Also, it can impact diabetes medication as well as medications that suppress the immune system. Okay, so what happens though if you genuinely need some help falling asleep? Now let's talk about magnesium. Magnesium is known as the sleep mineral, although it does all kinds of things. But one of the things that it does is it activates the body's parasympathetic nervous system, which is the system that's responsible for helping you calm down and feel relaxed. It is said to reduce stress, and it also is said to help you sleep longer. And here's the thing, it also helps with melatonin production. Other positive side effects of magnesium or, benefits of having enough magnesium, healthy levels of magnesium in your body is it helps with osteoporosis, cardiovascular disease and hypertension, type 2 diabetes, and migraine headaches. But here's the thing. Those studies were a lot of, not the osteoporosis and the cardiovascular disease, but as far as like it being a sleep mineral and helping people fall asleep and stay asleep and all of that, those studies were done in people who were deficient in magnesium. And the word's still kind of out how many of us are deficient in magnesium. Some of us say like up to 80% of us are deficient in magnesium. Other people are saying like most of us have healthy levels of magnesium. So this is like we don't have all the evidence yet. We don't have all the studies yet. But as far as it helping people with sleep, people who were deficient in magnesium did see gains. We just don't know if people who have healthy levels of magnesium are going to see the same kind of gains, right? So more isn't always better, and magnesium might be one of those cases. It's hard to tell whether or not you're low in magnesium because it doesn't really cause symptoms until it's really bad, until you are having some kind of cardiovascular disease. But we do know that our soil is chronically depleted, which means our plants are low in magnesium, which means the animals that eat those plants tend to be low in magnesium. Also, the use of chemicals such as chlorine and fluoride in our water bind to magnesium, which means those minerals aren't as available in our drinking water. And then common substances like sugar and caffeine also deplete the body's magnesium levels. Not surprising, stress taxes the endocrine system. That also depletes the level of magnesium in your body. So would it be surprising if we were chronically deficient in magnesium? Not really. So Andrew Huberman recommends magnesium as part of his famous sleep toolkit as one of those things that might be able to help you get a better night's sleep. But like with melatonin and with magnesium, the placebo effect is strong, right? And the placebo effect is super strong with me, which is fine because the placebo effect actually has real effects. So as long as something's doing no harm, like if you're taking a pill and it's actually helping you and it's doing no harm to your body, like you might actually be getting some gains from that. They did these studies where people who took a blue pill felt more calm because we associate blue with relaxation, and people who took a red pill felt more energized and activated and awake because we see red as this activating color. So placebo effect is real, which is funny, right? Because it's placebo. But melatonin has the potential to maybe do some harm, whereas magnesium, like it's helping with all of these other things, regardless of whether or not it's helping with sleep. Now, if you don't want to take the supplement, it's easy to get magnesium in foods, including dark chocolate, also leafy greens, avocados, bananas, wild-caught fish, Himalayan salt, sprouts. So it's easy to get magnesium in food. So if you're worried you're deficient in magnesium and you don't feel like taking the supplement route yet, you can just get a bar of chocolate, make it dark. Here's a quote to end with from George Carlin. People say, "I'm going to sleep now," as if it were nothing, but it's a really bizarre activity. For the next several hours, while the sun is gone, I'm going to become unconscious, temporarily losing command over everything I know and understand. When the sun returns, I'll resume my life. If you didn't know what sleep was and you had only seen it in a science fiction movie, you would think it was weird and tell all your friends about the movie you'd just seen. They had these people, and they would walk around all day and be okay. And then once a day, usually after dark, they would lie down on these special platforms and become unconscious. They would stop functioning almost completely, except deep in their minds, they would have adventures and experiences that were completely impossible in real life. As they lay there, completely vulnerable to their enemies, their only movements were to occasionally shift from one position to another. Or, if one of the mind adventures got too real, they would sit up and scream and be glad they weren't unconscious anymore. Then they would drink a lot of coffee. So the next time you see someone sleeping, make believe you're in a science fiction movie and whisper, "The creature is regenerating itself." Again, that was from George Carlin. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please leave us a review on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen. You can also check out our YouTube channel where you can watch videos of this podcast, and please leave comments and say what you liked, what you didn't like, what you want to see more of, what you want to see less of. Also, you can go to trendswithbenefits.com to check out all of our written work or sign up for our weekly newsletter. And if you're struggling with a relationship problem or you just have some curiosity around the relationships in your life and you would like a little support, you can send a voice memo to podcast@mudwtr.com and I'll answer your questions during this podcast. Also, if you send a voice memo to podcast@mudwtr.com telling me the favorite way you like to take your mud, do you put it in a smoothie? Do you take it straight? Do you bake with it? How do you like it? If we play that on this podcast, we will ship you a free mud water mug. So be sure to include your address in that email that you send. Sleep well.